Right, kicking off the questions. So this is a question for Frederick. How do you think smart city concepts are actually being accepted by countries when we have high-profile failures such as the Google initiative in the States and Canada, and the sort of data and privacy issues around that? Frederick, you're still on mute, I think.
Is it better now?
There we go.
So first of all, thank you very much, James, for this very inspiring talk. Very interesting, by the way. So now to answer the question, so I guess here the concern is around data privacy. So, well, let's be clear. I'm not a data expert, but I have my own opinion, and it is not clear who should own the data, and data is at the core of either smart city or responsive cities or intelligent city. So I think we need to make it clear this issue, who own the data and how can we process it. We have here in Europe great initiatives with the GDPR initiative that is very much similar with what is happening in California as well and in other part of the world. So my opinion is the data is like, you know, the water in a river. There is no sense to own the data when it flows through your own application, through your own purpose, because it will serve the purpose of something else. So I think it should be regulated, and it is a barrier to overcome for smart cities, that is for sure. But I do not see as the main barrier for the rise of smart cities.
Nice. Frederick, you mentioned smart cities for people. Besides that as a main goal, could you provide some examples of established cities such as Leeds and Manchester transitioning to becoming smarter?
Yes, sure. So there is a very interesting example actually here in the UK and not far away from London, which is Milton Keynes. So Milton Keynes was originally designed to be smart, to be intelligent. And you have a lot of very interesting pilots happening there. So in my domain of expertise, which is mobility, and I'm sure Bani can also add a bit more about it, you have a lot of pilots around autonomous vehicles. And the latest one, which is really exciting, is the one from Starship. So it's small pods, you know, to deliver your grocery or whatever. And so for you pay just £1 and you have your bag that is delivered literally in front of your door. So I think it's very exciting. It is one step towards making our cities smart. There are a lot of different examples, but Milton Keynes would be a very interesting one. Not a big city, not a mega city, but something more smaller.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of questions for Barney. With the increase of self-driving cars, how much do councils need to adapt current roads and street infrastructure to accommodate for this?
Thank you. This is a very difficult question, but I can say that depending on what are the priorities for the councils to achieve, obviously there's autonomous cars in terms of sensor detection and so on. Sensor technologies, they require to be able to recognize the markings on the streets. So there are a number of things that requires improvement in various cities, or there are traffic control strategies that are in place that when we have autonomous cars, and as well assuming that autonomous cars are going to be connected, we may need to rethink about them. We may need to update them or even get rid of them because we have other possibilities to improve or to reduce traffic delay, as well as congestion, and help users to have a better travel experience when they are getting from A to B. I cannot exactly give you a very quantitative answer, but I can imagine which areas are urgently required to be looked into in order to allow that we maximize the benefits that we can get from autonomous cars.
Makes sense. We've got a bunch of questions, but I think we're just going to have one more and then wrap. So how are we using AI to lower carbon emissions and environmental impact, or perhaps more importantly, to get ready for the societal disruption that climate and ecological breakdown is going to bring? That's a pretty wide question, but does anyone want to take that?
Do you mind repeating the question?
Yeah, so how could you use AI to lower carbon emissions, and what's the sort of environmental impacts that you could improve?
So in terms of data analytics, yeah, the more data that we have, the more we can optimize the operations that we have within our systems. So if we are talking about reducing, for instance, if you are looking into reducing emissions on our streets, having information about a shorter horizon ahead of us or a longer horizon ahead of us, we can optimize drivers' behaviors or the car's behavior, the driver's driving behavior and the car's driving behavior in a way that we can reduce the number of stop and go behaviors, which is one of the key elements contributing to congestion. So the simple example of that, if I know that I'm gonna face congestion in the next 2 junctions, I may consider driving with different average speed, and we can introduce new interface technologies within the car that suggest that average speed to the driver by using AI and prediction models to see what would be the most optimal speed and encourage the driver to follow the suggested average velocity using human-centered interfaces. We can also look into rerouting the drivers in order to help with the flow of traffic in our system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If I can just jump in and add something on what just Benny has said, which is very true. One of the key elements to solve the congestion issue that we have in our cities is to unlock the full potential of shared mobility. And it's going to be together with autonomous technology. But before that, we have other examples. So if you can imagine that you are in a city and you want to go from a point A and point B, you just take your smartphone here, and then you order a cab or you order a bus. Well, artificial intelligence will allow you to do that thanks to on-demand bus applications. So instead of going to a bus stop, well, the bus stop will go to you because the bus will be there will be a computer, a sort of robot that will make the journey of the bus to make it smart and adapt to people's need. And it's just one of the many examples that we can find between the combination between AI and shared mobility.
Ace. Yeah, I think smart buses could be really good for rural areas as well, where reduce services and things like that. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking time out on for your lunch. Yeah, really good to see you all.